I'm Craig Kenneth, a relationship coach and a psychotherapist. Every relationship is different and every breakup is different. Work with me and you'll get professional help on your situation. And if you're in no contact, focused on personal growth, my workbook series, The Knowledge, will help you make changes like you've never made before. Available now at AskCraig.net. Hi there, I'm Coach Craig Kenneth.
And I'm Coach Victoria.
And in this video, we're going to be talking to you about if you can't keep your composure, they're going to move on.
Ooh, this is an important one.
Yes, it's a very painful reality, but our behavior is absolutely critical in a breakup.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to talk about this today because, I know what it's like to get filled with that anxiety. Everything inside you, you just want to talk to them about everything. You just want to fix it. You don't want to stop talking to them because you're afraid that it's going to be the last time you talk. And it's just devastating.
Oh, yeah. And we start to lose control. Sometimes we feel like we can't help it. And our brain is a very powerful thing. It will try to convince us to reach out and connect by any means possible. It will try to give us any kind of reason to reach out. And so we really get very neurotic and very obsessive after a breakup.
Minor things can make us snap and I gotta reach out. If we hear something, if we see something online, if we hear a rumor about something, it could be a lot of different things. And then we just spiral. And it's not just that makes us spiral. There's so much. Even if your ex contacts you and, they want to do, an exchange of items, give items back, meet up for that. We can totally lose our composure. And we go in and we're okay for a couple minutes and then we crack.
We start slipping.
And we quickly fall apart and it just kills the attraction.
Yeah.
So you got to be very careful. This is why you got to stay focused on personal growth. Stop obsessing about what your ex is doing. It doesn't matter if they logged on to Instagram 100 times or WhatsApp or Facebook, Messenger or whatever. It doesn't matter. What matters is that you focus on yourself, get through this, and if they reach out, you're in a good place.
Right. And when we want something so bad, it makes sense that we would lose our composure easily.
Yeah.
We become almost like children when we want something and we pout and we'll do anything in our power to get it. But here we're dealing with somebody who's made a decision. We have to show our ability to stay mature. We have to show our ability to stay grounded.
And one of the things that could be tough is and we had a mutual case that this happened where the ex would come back and be on bad behavior, you know what I'm talking about, and then they would disappear, and then they come back and be on bad behavior and disappear, and so you kind of think that you can behave like them, and you just don't realize, oh, I'm acting like they're acting. You can't be like that.
Yeah.
You have to hold it together even if they're not.
Right. And it's a challenge. It's a challenge to your own mental health. You're trying to keep it together as best as you can.
Yep. So I got a good email coaching today that's going to kind of show some of the things that we struggle in this kind of situation. This is a couple and they're in their, let's say, late 20s, early 30s, and they met about 3.5 years ago. Now they've been living together for over a year. Now, he's very new to the channel. He's only been watching for a couple of weeks. So, when you first come to the channel, you're so overwhelmed by all the incredible information that we share.
It's true. And, sometimes it can seem like a lot. Sometimes you feel very quickly like you're getting a good understanding of things, but it hasn't quite settled into your body and into practice yet.
Yes.
So
it's true.
I see a lot of excitement there.
I've come to realize a year ago through dating her, I have an anxious attachment style and have been working on it and trying to understand my feelings better. Great. That's exactly what we want you to do. The problem is I just couldn't wrap my head around healing, growing, and keeping change from it. I wish I had found your channel sooner. Boy, you must hear that at least every week.
Yeah.
At least every week. Sometimes every couple days. Whereas I just wish I had known this stuff sooner. I could have changed this. I wouldn't have gone through this pain. The interesting thing is if you share our channel with somebody that's not going through a breakup, they're going to be like, yeah, I'm not that interested.
Right.
But if they're going through a breakup,
they're like, who was that again?
we're their best friends.
Right.
Through listening to your channel over the last month, I've also pinpointed my ex definitely as an avoidant person, resulting from her neglected childhood. We have always enjoyed each other's company, and she's admitted to us being a great match. We only ever had issues when I smother her, have poor communication, and not understanding her need for space as a result of me being anxious. And if we can fix that, I think many relationships can be fixed.
Oh, yeah.
That
Oh, yeah.
anxious avoidant trap, I think, is the biggest reason that relationships fail.
Mm-hmm. And it's really about understanding the other person, understanding where they're coming from, and realizing that they're very different from you. A lot of times in relationships, we operate based on, well, I wouldn't have done that, or I would have done this instead of thinking this is a completely different person with a completely different set of traumas and things that motivate their behavior. So
Yeah.
being able to meet your partner at that level makes a huge difference.
Could you imagine how low the divorce rate or the breakup rate would be if people were secure?
It would be wildly
The
different.
world would be so much better. There would be so much less trauma.
Mm-hmm.
People's mental and physical health would be so much better.
Oh, yeah. And I heard a recent statistic saying that the divorce rate is actually lowering now.
Wow.
So, I wonder, this is my speculation, but I wonder as therapy becomes more accessible for people, and I know that's not everywhere, but, at least out here in the Western world, it's becoming more accessible. Knowledge is being shared more rapidly. I wonder if that's, changing things for relationships and for people's emotional health.
Or it's just too expensive to get divorced.
That too. That too.
All right, so let's go on. I realize now, through your channel, how devastating that kind of behavior must have been on her. And look at that. He's empathetic of that.
Yeah.
Isn't that really? That's great. 3 weeks ago, she decided she's exhausted and can't do our relationship anymore. It all came crashing down around Christmas when she decided it was time to call it quits. We spent the next 4 weeks around each other, but not dating, and living in separate places. And every week, I'd work on myself just enough that she felt happy and comfortable to be in each other's spaces, just for me to prove myself wrong and smother her to the point of her not wanting to anymore.
Yeah.
If that doesn't sum up so many reasons as to why people don't get their ex back.
Mm-hmm.
This is why we're always saying you have to have emotional self-control.
Right.
He started to see it, but he just couldn't do it because that muscle is so tough to develop, that internal muscle.
And also thinking about his motivation and where it's stemming from. Right now you can see it's very much stemming from her and wanting to repair that relationship. And so when we're so sensitive to our partner's moods or their happiness or satisfaction level in the relationship, then it becomes very fickle, right? He might have become more anxious maybe because she had a bad day.
Mm-hmm.
And that might have been the thing to tip him over.
Yeah.
And so it's really important to be able to have more motivations outside of just getting your ex back, to have emotional self-control.
It's so hard not to let the conversation steer back to, can we fix this? Can we get back together? It's so hard not to do that. It's one of the most challenging things in a breakup. Mm-hmm. I often joke about crying at Applebee's, and going into that situation, I even had a session with Margaret that day. Margaret and I were talking about everything. Like I said, Margaret was there for years, behind the scenes before the channel was ever launched. And so Margaret and I had a session. We're talking about everything I'm going to do and I'm not going to do. And so I wasn't going to bring up us and the relationship or anything like that. But where she got me is when she started talking about how much her daughter missed me. And it was so incredibly painful because her daughter was only like a year old when we started dating. So I watched her learn to walk and talk. And so she was like 3 when we broke up. So I loved that kid like it was my own daughter. And so when she was telling me how badly she missed me, and I don't even want to tell you because it was rough, and how she was upset about me and where is Craig? When is he going to come home? Well, I don't know when she told me this, but she started telling me, where's Craig? When is he going to come home? Just tell him to come home and he'll come home. That was it. That's what got me. That's where I was just heartbroken, because it wasn't like I lost just her. I lost the daughter. Mm-hmm. And that's a very different kind of love, where I wasn't able to see her or talk to her. So that's why I know that this is so hard to be in front of somebody and not talk about, can we fix this? Because after that, I was just, the tears were just flowing down my face. I was done.
Yeah.
And once I did that, I'm sure she lost a lot of attraction for me, because it was going okay up to that point.
Yeah, but it's hard to know what to expect in those kind of situations.
Yeah.
And seeing somebody that you loved so deeply and having these kind of conversations where you can feel in your heart, okay, this is coming to an end. I'm anticipating this. I'm fearing this so much. It's hard to not break down. It's really hard not to.
It is. It really is. So, a lot of people have told me over the years that it was the child or a child in the situation, that really got to them too, more so than the actual partner, because, it's very different to lose an ex as opposed to a child that you've been raising as your own child, your son, your daughter, whatever. Mm-hmm. And that bond is very different. When you love a baby like that, it's such an unconditional love, and you letting that go is the worst thing ever.
Yeah.
So I know what this is like. I know that, and that's why I'm always trying to prepare you guys, because it's very easy to be in this moment and make a mistake.
Mm-hmm. And it's common, where there is one tipping point. It could be connection with a family member, connection with that person's child or their other family members. Yeah. It could be giving back of things. Maybe they give you back something that really meant a lot to you in the relationship. Mm-hmm. Maybe you had gotten them a piece of jewelry that they're trying to return back to you, or whatever it might be. So you really don't know what to expect all the time when you're having these conversations with your ex. And so this is why it's important to prepare. And sometimes there's moments where there could be nothing to prepare you at all, like in your situation. There was nothing that could have prepared you for that moment.
I was prepared for everything but that. And that I did not see coming.
Yeah.
It was the reenacting of how she was saying it. That's what was killing me.
Yeah.
It was the worst.
And we talk about emotional self-control all the time, but we realize that we're speaking to humans, and we realize that we're humans ourselves. So it makes sense that we're going to have a point where it's going to be very difficult to control things and to reel things back, which is why we try to think about strategies on how to manage things as best as we can.
Yep. So let's get into this. There's more that's going to happen. A few days would pass, and we would start chatting again. We would meet up and have a couple wonderful days with her playfully admitting she hates how much she loves me. Good to hear that, right? It's going good, and now it's going to happen. Some nights even ended in hooking up and staying the night out in each other's arms. I'm also at the stage of feeling dating burnout. I'm not sure where that came out. It came out of nowhere.
But maybe thinking, he doesn't want to date other people. He's very focused on this relationship.
Yeah. I found out this time that she started entertaining another guy. This really hurt, so I decided it was time to do the real no contact.
When I hear the terms entertaining somebody else, I just think about, Annie singing the Tomorrow sequence. Tomorrow. Like entertaining now. Maybe it's just me.
That's an odd choice by you for entertainment.
It's just an image that pops in my mind, But clearly here, it sounds like he's realizing that she might be talking to other people in a romantic way or romantically curious about other people, which is where he drew the line. So I don't blame him. She was not singing any Annie sequences here.
That's really an obscure one. Annie from like 1973 or something like that.
Something that pops up, entertaining and doing like jazz hands.
Oh my goodness! All right, so
just
let's. Maybe other people will comment. Yeah, I loved Annie too. That's what I think of.
What do you do when you entertain?
I don't know. Make some little weenies for people.
Make weenies.
Yeah, the little hot dog weenies.
That's way more obscure than Annie sequence.
You know what I'm talking about.
No, I don't know what you're talking about.
Those little weenies in the croissant thing. What are they called? Pigs in a blanket.
That's what you do to entertain people?
You have people over and you give them pigs in a blanket.
To
hors d'oeuvres. You want to eat the hors d'oeuvres or whatever. Entertain yourself. She's always talked about focusing on her own life for a while. Uh-oh, that sounds like an excuse. And encouraged her to do so and told her I respect her wanting space. I also admitting I need to put some serious work into myself. Okay, so I think she gave him that excuse because she was entertaining the other guy. We both cried as we hugged goodbye, and it even resulted in her running down the street after me in tears as she said she wasn't ready to see us go, but we said goodbye. I've started the process, without telling her, of no contact, and it's been so scary and painful, and it's only been a week. Yeah, that does. I remember that. I remember that feeling sitting on the bed, and time just seemed, minutes felt like hours.
And the first week, that can be the point where it's heightened. That can be the hardest part of a breakup, or one of the most difficult parts.
Yeah.
Because that's when you're really faced with the reality. You realize you're not going to see this person or talk to them probably for some time.
Just like staring at the phone, like all you're doing is staring at the phone, waiting for them to message you. Yeah. That's all it matters.
And it can feel very surreal. You can think, how is this really happening? I had planned so much of my life around this person. They were such a big part of my life. I talked with them constantly, or whatever it might be, and now everything is different.
I know.
A blink of an eye.
I felt like almost like I was in a cloud, like in a haze, in a fog, almost like I was dissociating a little bit. Like I'm not quite there. I'm kind of like in my thoughts, but present. It's kind of like your mind is all over the place. It's an awful feeling. I've unfollowed her off of all social media and have a strong mindset. I won't be posting or adding anything there until I feel healed or her pull. I'm worried I've hurt her too much beyond repair, and this new guy may just steal her away as she is the avoidant attachment style. Boy, that we all fear that. Everybody fears that. I felt that they're going to ride off into the sunset. It's going to be perfect and amazing. And it might be for those initial 3 to 4 months. But once it becomes about long-term attachment, there's going to be a lot of changes in that dynamic.
Right. And for somebody who's more avoidant to jump from a relationship to another relationship, it's very different than when an anxious person does that. So for somebody who's more avoidant, it takes them a longer time to really trust someone. It takes them a longer time to bond. So it's a bit more complicated. Somebody who's more anxious, they really like to use that other person as a distraction. They're ready to dive deep because they have those feelings of anxiety and wanting to not be abandoned by anybody by any means possible. So it's very different.
Yeah, it is. It's a little bit more here. I purchased the workbooks, and after volume 1, I'm excited to continue learning. I do strongly believe she will reach out in time, as we both admitted before that this is the deepest love we've ever had. How do I keep my composure and give her wonder to want to reach out more when that time comes? Okay, so like we talked about extensively, staying in that moment of I'm not going to talk about us. I'm going to just be present with her and enjoy the company and not focus so much on trying to manipulate her back.
Right. And, something that I've actually learned from you is to focus on what you do want versus what you don't want. So focus on, how can I keep this light? How can I keep this energy airy and fun and connected? So thinking about those things rather than, trying to think in your mind, well, don't bring up the breakup, don't bring up the breakup, don't bring up, because then you get stuck in that loop and then you're more likely to say, I want to talk about the breakup.
Yeah.
So, you have to be mindful of that too, is thinking about what you would like to talk about, how you would like to present yourself and act, and what you might do if they start to bring up the breakup.
Yep.
Or if you find yourself starting to spiral or starting to feel like you want to bring up something that might be highly emotional, you could take a break.
Go to the bathroom.
Go to the bathroom,
if you have
splash
to.
some
Yes.
water on your face.
Yes.
Take a minute to regain your composure. And remember, not everything is going to be resolved in one conversation.
Yeah. Not likely. Very unlikely.
Right. Our brains tell us this is the last time we'll talk. I have to get it all off my chest. I have to try everything, or else it feels like I've, just let go some opportunities here. But you have to remember, things take time, and it takes time to rebuild attraction. It takes time for a relationship to be repaired.
Yeah. And that belief that you create for yourself, if I don't talk about it now, that's going to be the end of it. That actually will make it more likely to be the end of it if you have that mindset.
Right.
He had a couple quick questions here. He said, do I keep things light and fun, which you just talked about?
Mm-hmm.
But you don't want to look too eager because remember, she is dating another guy now. So you
Right.
don't want to look like you're so eager to take her back after she kind of broke up with you and quickly started dating someone else. You want to be a little bit more reserved, right? You want to play your cards a little bit closer to your chest there, right? You don't want to be so vulnerable because she's probably still really excited about some new person,
Right.
right? So I'm not going to be eager to chase after somebody who's broken up with me and eager to date some or quickly dating somebody else. So I'm going to keep myself guarded, and I'm going to want to see that she is missing me and that she wants to really repair it and that she sees things somewhat differently too here. Right? Because, you know, obviously he did a lot with his anxiety that maybe push her away, but we don't know what she was doing that maybe was triggering him as well.
Right.
Okay. He also says she loves psychology and the answer to whys behind what we do. So I'm afraid she will try and take the conversation there. Well, I wouldn't talk about anything like that. As we say, you don't want to talk about attachment theory with your ex, not when you're trying to reattract them.
Right. Right. And I know it's tempting to do because you're learning so much and you've probably analyzed your situation and thought about it and reflected. And as you're doing the workbooks, you're probably learning more. But you want to take things with ease, right? We can come off as very overwhelming if we're like, yes, I have, you know, a 50-page dissertation on our relationship and why everything failed, and let me, you know, write it out for you.
It's not going to help.
No. It ends up being overwhelming, and, you know, you have to take things, once again, with time. You have to show the other person that you can be patient in even reflecting and thinking back on your relationship. You don't have all the answers right after a breakup. It takes time to process things.
Yes, and you need to do that. Keeping your composure is absolutely critical. And if you're not working on those issues in no contact, you're going to be a lot more likely to make these small little mistakes that can really push someone away and turn them off.
Oh, yeah.
It's sad, but that's the reality. That's the consequence. If you don't focus on these things and you're just watching no contact videos, you're not going to realize what you have to do to not only get beyond these few dates, but to make them want to come back and fix things.
Exactly. There are also a couple things that you can do to help compose yourself in the moment and to prepare yourself for that conversation with your ex. A big thing is breath. Our breath is really tied to the way that we communicate and our ability to keep ourselves calm. So while this might not be, you know, a solution for everybody, it could be something to work on and just be aware of as you're preparing for this. Another thing is also to be able to process your emotions, write down in your mind any kind of residual anger you might have toward that person, your feelings towards that person. And it's good to get these things out on paper. Do not send anything. I want to be clear with that.
Do not send anything.
But being able to, in a cathartic way, be able to express what you might want to talk about or say on a paper beforehand might actually help you to not let that all pour out uncontrollably when you're in front of your ex.
Absolutely.
So.
And if you enjoy things like that, the Creative Healing course has thousands of questions. The workbooks do too.
Super helpful.
Asking those things to get you to process things and get to a good place. So hopefully this one's been helpful to you. And of course, if you want to get our help personally, you can do that on my website, askcraig.net. I do email coaching and I do Skype. Coach Victoria is also available for Skype coaching.
I'm here whenever you'd like to chat.
Just click on her name on the top of the website to schedule with her. But that's it for this video. I'm Coach Craig Kenneth.
And I'm Coach Victoria.
And we will talk with you soon.